Okay, aloha everyone. My name is Kapehe. Welcome to the Developer Deep Dive event. We're going to be talking a lot about like SEO and AI and content. But yeah, so I am the Developer Community Manager over at Sanity, and as you join, you will see a chat to the right. It should be to the right for you. But yeah, let me know where you're joining from, and we're super excited about today. We do these about every 6 weeks, so this is our July event, and we have another one in about 6 more weeks. So if you want to keep up on things that we are doing and events that we are hosting, you can go to sanity.io/events, and I am putting that in the chat. But that will have all of our like upcoming events and like past events. So definitely check out that page. And then if you've ever missed an event, then you can go back and like rewatch stuff. We will have the recordings there and all that good stuff. So yeah, let me know where you're joining from. I am in Denver, Colorado, in the U.S. It is beautiful today. I will probably go on a bike ride after this meetup. Speaking of summer, I know it's really hot everywhere. It's not hot in Colorado. It's like really nice. But I'm originally from Vegas, so I guess the 120 that's happening in Las Vegas right now is nice and cool here for like 95 in Colorado. Anyway, so yeah, what's your like favorite like summer event? I've been getting into biking a lot lately. I'll put my kid on the back seat and we just like bike around. It's super fun. So we see Clive is joining from San Diego, and we have India, we have Canada, we have two from Canada. Welcome, Canada. Cincinnati, welcome everyone. Super excited to have you all here. Vermont, is it nice weather right now? I feel like it's like super hot on the East Coast, but Vermont always feels like crispy and cool. I've never been, but I just feel like that's how it is. We have Missoula, we have Boyne City. I don't know if I'm saying that right. Another Canada, Germany, welcome. UK, terrible weather. Sorry. Come to Colorado. It's really nice. Um, cool. I got it right. So yeah, hiking is my activity of choice. Gordana in Seattle. Seattle has some of the best hiking. I completely agree with that. So yeah, tell me where you're joining from. Um, like a fun summer activity you like to do. Still hot and humid in northern Vermont. Well, you will all have like the best fall because Vermont, I think, has the best fall. 98 degrees in Portland, Romania. Welcome, everyone. So, yeah, we're super excited. Let me just go over a couple things as you all join. So, I want to remind everyone to be kind to everyone in the chat and to our speakers. Our speakers have created some amazing talks to present to you today. So, make sure to show the love there. So the flow will be 3 speakers, and each speaker will speak, and then immediately following their talk, there will be a Q&A section. So put all your questions during the speaker's talk in the chat, and then we will have Q&A to answer all those after the talk. And we can just chat, and they can reshare things or whatever it is. So put those questions in the chat. So yeah, we first have Josh from Planetary. Second, we will have Jamie from Hex Digital. And then last, we will have Rich, who is our SEO expert over at Sanity. So yeah, super excited for this. Let's bring Josh onto the stage. Hey, Josh.
Hey, how you doing?
Good. So you have to answer it too. Where are you joining from, and what's your favorite summer sport?
I am currently sweating it out in Brooklyn. It is uncomfortably hot and humid here. Favorite summer sport? Golf, but really early in the morning, because otherwise it's just unbearable.
Yeah. Does it take you 4 hours to do all 18?
Yeah, give or take, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I think the like only 9 holes is like the perfect amount. I don't golf, but my husband does. And so whenever he goes, I'm like, just do 9. 9's great.
9 is good. 9 is like a nice hour and a half
Yeah.
leisurely, and then you can get on with your day.
Yeah, exactly. Cool. Well, we're super excited for your talk. Again, everyone, if you have questions for Josh, put them in the chat and we will get them answered immediately following his talk. So let's get your screen shared, Josh.
All right.
And then I will leave you to it. So Dale asked real quick, will there be any slides shared for following along and making notes? No, there are no like slides for making notes, but we will have all these recorded and they will be live on Sanity's YouTube afterwards. So yeah. Cool. Well, I'm going to leave the stage. Josh, the stage is yours and good luck.
Thank you. Cool. All right. So what I have up here, I'm willing to bet that 99% of you set up your quote unquote SEO tab in your CMS, Sanity or otherwise, more or less like this these days. You have your tags, your description, you have your open graph overrides. What if I told you that you should actually be doing it like this with social previews, pre-flight, and actually managing all of your content and technical SEO directly in Sanity as a part of your publishing workflow, as opposed to treating it a little bit like an afterthought. Before I get into that, I do want to talk about technical versus content SEO. Some of you may already be familiar with this. If you are, I apologize. Feel free to tune out for a minute here. But I want to talk about the difference between these two and how they interplay with one another. So technical SEO, that sounds really cool. It's all about the implementation. So the code side of SEO, essentially, the things that actually go into the code that Google, Bing, whatever other search engine will look at from a structural standpoint. Things like speed, metadata, structure of pages. What does that include? That includes the metadata, the title, the description, like I said, the open graph tags, alt tags on images, structured data, so JSON LD schemas. If you're not familiar with those, it's a JSON formatted way of describing a section of a document. Mobile friendliness, also more commonly known as responsiveness. Page speed, so things like time to first byte, first contentful paint, largest contentful paint, cumulative layout shift, and Google's newest one, interaction to next paint. And then things like link validity. Are all of the links in your content lead to pages that return 200s, no 404s, no 500s, no redirects? Essentially, are all of the links valid, up to date? On the other side, you have your content SEO, which sounds a little less cool, but is all about the written content, the quality and the frequency of your posting. It's focused on things like keywords, composition, the freshness and the engagement. So it includes things like how consistently you're posting, how frequently you're posting. Are these things up to date? Is the quality of the content very high? Using various metrics of content quality, looking at how similar it is to other content. Things like the uniqueness of the content. Is the content unique? Are you an authority? Is your site an authority on that particular topic? Do you go particularly deep through several different articles? And then other things like keyword relevance are the things that folks searching for, what they're engaging with on your website. Are the keywords that they search for and where they land on your site, the links they're clicking, the pages they're viewing, relevant to the keywords that they searched for? Do they stay on the site for a long period of time, or do they bounce relatively quickly because the content isn't relevant? So with those two things in mind, technical and content SEO, Google has, of course, a ranking algorithm. Some of you may have seen a bunch of news recently about the quote-unquote leak of the algorithm, which included a lot of different factors, all the different factors that Google includes in its ranking algorithm, the different weights that it holds. Essentially, technical makes up for about 30% of that algorithm, and content makes up for about 50% of the algorithm. Keep in mind, obviously, it's only 80%. There's another 20% that are other factors, domain authority, backlinks, third-party sources that are factored into, social sources, etc., that are factored into this. But net, about 80% of your site is ranked against these technical and content factors. So what does it mean to bring technical and content SEO into your Sanity Studio? And do you want a caveat here? your writing can't totally suck. This is sort of assuming that you're starting from a baseline where you have writers and editors that are producing good content. And this is supplementary to continue to improve upon that, actually allow you to then validate some of these factors, so these technical and content factors, before publishing. So why do we care? Well, this is why. I mean, this is a screenshot from Ahrefs, but fundamentally, the health of your website, how it ranks, the number of backlinks you get, the organic traffic, the organic keywords, the overall search performance of your website is based on these factors, these technical and these content SEO factors. So 80% of how your site gets ranked is based on the performance of what you're actually putting out there. And that's why bringing it into your Sanity Studio is important. So why do this in your CMS? There's lots of different ways that folks manage their content, the quality of their content, the keyword performance, the technical side of things. A lot of times that happens outside of the CMS right now. You have secondary tools, you have the developers managing a good chunk of this work. But should you do it in your CMS? Yes, actually. Why? There are a lot of rules to validate. On the technical side, on the content side, you have all of these different factors that you want to validate, you want to verify before your content goes live. Rather than publishing and checking after the fact and then having to republish or update drafts, being able to do that stuff directly in the CMS means it becomes part of your editor's workflow, your writer's workflow, as opposed to an afterthought. There's a lot of tools to automate validation. We have third-party APIs we can reach out to. We have the entire studio that can be customized for this purpose. And your team's time is really better spent actually creating the content than trying to fuss around with third-party tools and building things in other places. Keeping them in the studio means that their energy can be streamlined. And then most importantly, developers have cool dashboards, so why shouldn't content editors? So I've been calling this CICD for your content. For those of you that don't know what CICD is, or those of you that are not super familiar with the actual expansion of that term, it's continuous integration, continuous deployment. Really what that is, it's essentially for developers, and a lot of you here are developers, I would imagine. It's an automated process designed to streamline the creation, testing, and deployment of applications. It looks like this, sort of like the short version of it. On the left, you have CI. On the right, you have CD. And it is essentially, for better or worse, a sort of infinite loop of how you build and deploy software continuously and give yourself the ability to verify, validate, and continuously build new components. Why can't we just do this for our content as well? Well, we can. Sanity content creation, really, the only thing we need to change here is rather than coding, we're writing. But you're still planning, you're still building, you're still testing, you're still releasing, you're still monitoring your content after it goes out. At the end of the day, especially on the web, your content is very much a continuous deployment. We're going to talk about the CI side of this today. So we're going to talk about the writing, the building, the testing. So how do we do that in Sanity? Let's talk about writing first. The basics, if you will. You have your page titles, you have your metadata, you have your open graph tags, right? We talked about these. Typically, it looks a little bit something like this. You have your SEO tab, you have your meta with your titles, descriptions, keywords, which most search engines don't typically use these days, but doesn't hurt. You have your open graph properties, your title, your description, social image. What if, instead of just having these open fields, we went a little bit further? So what we actually have built into Sanity using their AI functionality is the ability to automatically generate some of this metadata for us. So we gave it some instructions, asked it to generate an article summary, and have it automatically spit out a description for us really easily. You can do that for your titles. You can do that for the keywords. You can even do that for the open graph section of this as well. But it allows you to streamline that process. Now let's go a little bit less basic and start talking about the build part of the process, which is the part I actually get really excited about. So within that, let's talk a little bit less basic. One of the things that folks do a lot of the time, I've seen a lot of our clients do, a lot of folks that we've worked with do, they'll put together like the OG tags, they'll set up a title, a description, a preview image, and then there's no real great way to test that until you publish the content. So what we actually have started doing is building into Sanity a social preview. So we set this little plugin up that lets you take a look at the Google results, the Facebook result, the Twitter, now X, preview, and the LinkedIn sharing preview. What that does is actually pulls the OG data that's set up in the editor and runs it through the site. So that preview image is automatically generated based on the draft data in here using the OG image generator that we have set up in the adjacent next app for the site itself. But it lets you actually preview this live so you can make changes and actually see what it's going to look like before you publish. The live social previews are really nice. They allow you to, eliminate common mistakes, missing titles, missing descriptions, badly formatted images. You can, like I said, double check your images, double check your titles, actually how they're going to look when it goes live. And you can share some visual references with your marketing teams. It's something that I've seen come up a lot. What's it going to look like when it gets published before they schedule it on Twitter, before they schedule it on LinkedIn, before they schedule it on any of these other social services? Being able to actually preview these before they go out is a huge boost and a huge performance enhancement to these teams. And last but not least, going back to what I said sort of at the beginning here, keeping your editors in the studio. The more you can keep them in the studio, the better, the less they have to go out to a third-party tool or publish and test. So we're still in the build section of the CI flow, but let's talk about another thing that we've done. I think a little less basic, content audits. So this one's a lot of fun. We've started building out some functionality, again, using the AI assist that Sanity has, to actually review the articles, review the content in Sanity directly. We give it a set of instructions, look at the grammar, look at the spelling, look at a set of keywords or the clarity of the writing or editorial standards, does it align, and actually give us that feedback. The AI assist will give you that feedback, and the nice thing is you can literally click right in, it'll give you the breakdown, and you can copy and paste some of these edits directly back into your content. It's just a regular Sanity field, so this gets stored. You can actually come back to these reviews later on, or you can rerun it if you want. But the nice thing is that they automatically allow you to check your grammar and spelling against best practices, or if you have particular editorial standards to work against. You can have it also automatically identify opportunities to improve keyword usage, so that even if you wrote this in, say, Google Docs, you brought it in, it can now review it and say, hey, you're missing these 3 or 4 critical keywords, or you have these 3 or 4 keywords that we don't use on the site, and have them recommend removing them. It also streamlines the editorial, gets your folks to actually do a first pass without having to go to a human editor, which saves the editor saves some time in terms of editorial, where it doesn't have to go to a marketing manager. You get a first pass completed, it comes back, and then that final pass can be a human editor, but it has at least gone through one full quote-unquote robo review, if you will. Now, let's talk a little bit about test. That's the last step in the CI flow. This is a little bit more advanced, but this goes back to what I had showed at the very beginning. The pre-flight checks. Essentially, pre-flight checks being, does everything work? Does everything validate? Does everything meet the technical SEO standards necessary to publish this content? So, this might look familiar. We've built a pre-flight plugin that allows folks to actually do link checks. So what you're seeing here is basically it'll check all the links in line in a particular piece of content. It'll validate that all of them are returning a valid 200, not 404ing, not returning a redirect, not a 500. And you'll see, for example, that second one there is an invalid URL. It'll actually show you that it's incorrect. You can go back and correct that right in your editor, making that part of your workflow. as opposed to getting the inevitable email that a lot of us probably have gotten of, hey, that link in the middle of your article doesn't work. We also have an SEO audit. And this is actually a really cool integration. We integrated with a tool called Data for SEO, which has an API that allows us to run about 51 different checks. Some of them more valuable than others, but net, basically, this allows us to run an audit against a draft version of the content. It'll actually go and reach out to the preview page, review it for things like loading time. Is the page redirecting for some reason? Does it have the right canonical? Does it have an H1 tag? Does it have the right meta tag set up? It'll actually review the content sort of as it'll look when published. And then you can do an entire pass, technical SEO pass, if you will, before even hitting that publish button. And it's nice because you can, again, make this part of your workflow. If something's broken, you can actually go back to, say, your technical team, go to your devs and have them fix something that's wrong with the page, go to your content, make changes, add missing metadata, or report a bug to your team if something's not showing up correctly. So what do Preflight Checks allow you to do? You can, again, avoid dead or invalid links in your content. Super valuable. Number of times that has happened to me, I have lost count. You can validate your page performance against a pre-published draft. So as long as you have a preview version of your site available, you can set up the SEO checks and actually get the page performance validated before it goes out live. Say, page is loading slowly, you can verify that maybe you have an image that's loading too large of an image, or you have too large of a file trying to embed itself on the page, or some iframe embed is taking a particularly long time. Very easy to actually check these before it goes out. Again, eliminates guesswork for core technical SEO needs. You know that your team no longer has to wonder, is everything working correctly? You can just check right in the studio. And then, and we'll talk about this in a second, control publishing ability based on the results of that check. So you can actually build this into your workflow, make sure that these things pass before the content gets published. So where do you go from here? We have all of these pieces. How do we tie that together into the CI workflow that we were looking at? Well, again, we can make it an actual workflow in Sanity. And I'll caveat this. This is a future state. This is something that we are working on. We have all of these individual pieces built, and then building it into the workflow is sort of our next step. But Sanity has this really great workflow plugin. Now, if you've ever looked at it, it's a great example to sort of a jumping off point. But you can build out a workflow so you can have content that's in review, changes requested, approved. You can build that in a completely different workflow depending on how what your editorial process is. But it's fully extensible, which means that for things you can require validation for fields. You can set up the transitions from stage to stage, and so you can make sure that all of your fields are valid. And then we can tie in a feedback check, make sure that the content has been audited, but automatically before it goes to a human editor. Make sure all of the pre-flight checks are passing before it goes to a human editor. We can build these pieces directly into that workflow and make sure that by the time a second person or a third person is looking at it, or before it gets published, it has actually been reviewed completely automatically with all of these pre-flight checks and all of these audits as a part of your workflow. So you know that when you're publishing something, the content and the technical SEO are at least at the baseline validated and make sure that your standards are being met. So that ties all the way back around to this workflow, where we have you plan your content, you write your content, and you use Sanity to build and test your content before you release. You deploy your content, you manage that content in Sanity, and then you monitor its performance. What else could we do? There's more we could do. There's plenty more we could do here. Let's talk about a couple things that we haven't explored yet. There's opportunity to do more, go further with the AI rules. So those automatic content audits, you could have them review for certain editorial standards if you have in-house editorial standards for content, or things like AP or Chicago style standards. You can have it review for those specifically and provide feedback. I know a lot of folks use page builders, usually those block content to build out different sections of a page. You can have those introspect. You can have the audits introspect those individual blocks and make sure that the content within them is all valid and meets SEO standards. You can also have recommended fixes or automatic resolution of problems. There's certain things that would be automatically fixable, and have the system make recommendations and have them auto apply. If a lot of you use like Prettier as your coding, great way to do that. And then tie in something like Ahrefs or SEMrush directly into the dashboard. Actually let folks see how the content's performing directly in the studio is a big opportunity that we haven't tapped yet. I want to thank you all. I'm Josh. I do things at Planetary, that little red square up in the corner. We build sites for evolving companies. Thank you.
Josh, that was amazing. Super good stuff. A lot of, I don't know if you can see the emojis coming in, but clapping and excitement. That was great. So that was one of the best explanations I've seen of the CICD flow. And for you to change it from like code to write and how that works for like content creation, that was great. That was a great like visual. There are two questions that came through.
Mm-hmm.
One was from the very, very beginning. So I don't know. I'll just read it. But it's from Austin. And it's, can a new entrant ever really outrank an incumbent with strong SEO and authority / page rank with years of experience and continues to produce relevant content?
It's a great question. I'll be clear. This is not the be all end all. Like, you're not going to, none of these things that I showed here today are going to be like the thing that helps you outrank somebody else. They're incremental improvements to your content. At the end of the day, you still need to get folks to provide backlinks. You still need to grow your domain authority by having other authoritative sources want to link to you. Like, the content itself still needs to be good, but you increase your chances of success in terms of how you rank by having all of these other pieces, having the content have the right keywords, having the page perform well, having your essential metadata all there and structured correctly. All of that will incrementally add to the likelihood of success. If you don't have all of those things, sure, because you succeed. If you're, a CNN, if you're a Facebook, whatever, of course. But if you're starting out as a new player, at least having the essential pieces right means that you can focus on the content as opposed to having to focus on the technical and the keyword side of things with as much energy as you otherwise would have. Having the studio sort of double check you is a huge benefit.
Yeah, for sure. There was another question that came in. Any considerations or implications using this with the multilingual plugin?
It's a great question. We haven't explored that too much yet, but there's no reason that any of this would not work with the multilingual plugin or any sort of internationalization. We would need to factor in the various versions of the page as they show up in the different languages for something like the SEO audit. Same thing for the content audit. You'd want to make sure that it checks things in different languages. Fundamentally, there's no reason you couldn't do that. It just does take it will take a little bit more work to make sure that it accounts for every language that you have available.
Got it. So I'm going to echo what someone said in the chat, but this is a great explanation. And I mean, I never knew that SEO could be implemented this much into Sanity. And there's like a lot of like validation, that happens, and a lot of like places that you need to work in for like workflows, but you've brought it all into one place, all into the studio, and you don't have to go anywhere else. Like that social preview was really cool. I know there's like a lot of platforms that have like ways to view what it's going to look like.
Right.
But if you're writing the content in the studio and then having to go to that and then having to like pull in the copy from Notion or whatever, like if you can just bring it all into the studio, then you stay more focused and the team can stay in one place, and it's just nicer. So yeah, very valuable stuff. Cool. Well, I don't know. Let me just check questions. Alicia says, it's been a while since I've been this excited about SEO. I agree.
I appreciate that.
So any resources or links on how to implement this? Is there anywhere that you recommend people going, or?
Yeah, so a couple of the plugins I showed in this presentation, we actually have on our GitHub. We'll be rolling them out. We just published them. So I can drop those links in the chat shortly, so you can take a look. And then other than that, I'm happy to pull up a couple of links we've used in terms of what we use to look into like SEO and the various weights of technical versus content.
Cool. Yeah. And then this is going to be live on Sanity's YouTube. So all the links that Josh shares, I'll put in the like description. So for his specific talk, so you can like also get them there. Awesome. Well, thanks so much, Josh. And we really appreciate it. Thanks everyone for your questions. And yeah, thanks, Josh.
Thanks so much for having me. Appreciate it.
See ya.
Cheers.
All right. So great stuff, Josh. Thank you so much. Let's get rolling. So the next talk we have is from Jamie, but let's think of a question, because my question at the beginning was, what's your favorite summer activity or like sport or like thing to do? It was biking for me. Josh said golfing. So let's do, what's your favorite season? So I love summer, but I actually really like winter. I like snow. I like all that kind of stuff. Karen says fall. But yeah, Spring in DC by Tyson. Yes, I agree. But yeah, I love winter. I like snow. I like skiing. So that's my favorite summer. Another winter person. Winter is coming. Yeah, cool. So let's bring Jamie on stage. Jamie is from Hex Digital. He is the head of engineering. Let me bring him on stage.
Hi, hey Kat, how you doing?
Good, how are you? I kind of did like a little intro for you, but I got it all right? Head of engineering at Hex Digital.
Yeah, perfect. Okay. Thank you.
Cool. So what is your favorite season?
I mean, it's hard to pick, isn't it? I mean, autumn is beautiful with the color changes and the kind of atmosphere of that. So I've got to probably go with that, starting to layer up a little bit. Yeah, I think that's a good one.
Yeah. And where are you located?
We're in London,
Sweet.
sort of central London. Yeah. So nice and miserable and rainy at the moment, which is fantastic.
Come to Colorado. It's really nice here.
Yeah. Yeah, that is beautiful.
Yeah. So Alex in the chat says Jamie looks like Messi. Do you get that?
No, it's a first for me, but I'll take it. That's fantastic.
Yeah, take it. Cool. Well, yeah, super excited for your talk. Let's get your screen shared, and then I will leave you to it, but I'm very excited for this one. And so, yeah, just reminder everyone, put your questions in the chat and we will answer the questions in the Q&A immediately following Jamie's talk. Okay, Jamie, the stage is yours.
Okay. Yes, I'm Jamie, head of engineering at Hex. We're an experience design agency, so we're really focused on how our websites and our products are used to ensure that both our customers and our customers' users get a really fantastic experience with our products. Naturally, Sanity lends itself fantastically to that mission. Customizability, the openness, they really allow us to explore and improve on what makes a great CMS. So I want to talk about page building and what this might look like if we really kind of focus in on that experience and try and dial it up. I think we're very familiar with this kind of page builder or modular section approach by now, where we kind of create an array of sections that can be added to a page, and those sections have kind of set fields for data and a component to render it. You can add sections to the page, change their order, edit their content. You get some flexibility around what your pages can kind of look like. And this is great compared to site builders. It lets editors focus on the content and not on the design, which is what we want. There's fewer controls, there's very little training needed. Compared to page templates, it gives editors a lot more kind of flexibility to present their content in the best way. And then compared to, with the sections themselves, they help ensure brand consistency. So again, compared to site builders, they're ensuring your content fits together well and is presented well. But often when using modular sections like this, our customers or our editors even find themselves with content that maybe doesn't quite fit into a section. So borrowing an example from one of the Sanity blogs, say we have this hero and it has a heading, a tagline, it has this image, this background image. But let's say the client or the company, they've signed a new partnership deal and they need to put in some partner logos in this hero. There aren't any fields in this hero section that would allow them to add partnership logos. So they need to get in touch with us. They need to ask us to add the ability to have partnership logos. We need to talk it through. We need to do a design. We add in sort of functionality. We QA, we deploy. All of this stuff takes time. And then they might need partner logos on another block somewhere else on the website. And they might need more content in sort of other sections that don't support that yet. So we add more controls to more sections to help them support that content. Maybe we add controls for the ordering of some of that content as well. Maybe they need variations. So all of this occurs design, development, QA costs, and it really impacts on editors' autonomy and content velocity for that editor, as well as the kind of usability of the CMS. You can imagine all of these controls kind of really starting to clog up a section, particularly if you only want a few things and you have to kind of wade through. So I want to present a bit of a different approach to modular sections, and we call these modular blocks. At its core, it's very similar. It starts with this array of blocks that can be added to a page, but these are known as outer blocks, and they're usually focused on the layout of the content that will go inside of them. And then they usually have another array of blocks inside of them for inner blocks, and inner blocks can be thought of as more base types of content. So titles, rich text, a group of buttons, partner logos, an article feed, things like that. Rather than building one section and saying, this is the content that can go in that section and these are the fields that we have, we build an outer layout or multiple outer layouts and then let editors choose what content is going to go into the inner section of that layout. So if we look at this in a live example, we can see coming down into our modular content section, we've got a title, we've got some text, and we've got kind of a button group. And we can go in and move these around on the site, and we can bring in and other content. So say we want partner names. So we may come in and just add a few of these in here. And we can now get this content straight away because we've built this in a block. So they'll come in here, and then again, we can still move those around and manage that kind of inner content as much as we want. But we can also then kind of take that to other blocks. So if we move down to this section block, maybe step one, we want to also add the same thing there. So similarly, we put this block in, and we'll see it start to fill out with content, and we'll have this little ticker kind of going around in here. You'll see that it's changed color as well, because that's kind of managed by the outer block, by this thing that's controlling the layout and that side of things. But it gives you this very nice, very easy to use control, that good flexibility over the content without having to be restricted to the fields that you have. And you can use it anywhere on the site, anywhere that we've kind of got inner content. But with this, there's obviously a fair amount of controls then. It's not just adding a single block to a section and filling out the predefined fields that we've got. So it's possible that this makes things a little bit harder. We're trying to improve the editorial experience, make it faster. So we've taken a few steps to try and really improve this. And the first is with reusable blocks. So the first thing we've done is to build out the ability to reuse these blocks in a kind of composition. So you imagine as an editor, you're building a landing page, you're building content pages, maybe PDPs or anything like that. And there's a type of section that you need over and over again. Maybe it's an image on the left with a title, text, and buttons on the right, that kind of thing. Maybe you want a reversed version as well. With the reusable blocks feature, you can build it once using the same tooling with your outer and inner blocks, but then you can include it in any page later on. It will just kind of import the individual outer and inner blocks just as if you built it there and then in the page by yourself. And in terms of ease of use, this gives us parity with that modular section approach, because new editors can just choose from a list of predefined sections without having to try and build their own straight away. But then it also gives them the flexibility on top of that to reorder the inner blocks content within, and also to add more content as they need it as well. We have a section in the structure for viewing and creating reusable blocks. And you can also kind of save one or more blocks straight out of a page that you've already built, put them in here, and then reuse them for the future. And you can take this as far as you like. We've got a landing page template, for example, set up as reusable blocks. So you can create a page, pick your landing page template, change whatever copy and images you need, and then just push it live. It's really fast. Our editors are completely autonomous to be able to create more landing page templates and reuse them themselves. But again, choosing from a list of blocks and reusable blocks may not be that easy unless you know what those blocks are and what they look like. So you can already see where I'm going with this block picker. But a further addition we've made, and something Sanity themselves have also very recently built a version into their core of, is a more visual block picker. So you've probably, like I said, seen this already. When an editor adds an outer or an inner block, they're going to see this dialog. It's going to have the names and the images of all their blocks. And when they're creating reusable blocks, they can upload their own image as well that will be used in this section. And it really helps kind of clarify what a block looks like, and helps editors to choose the right block that they need right away. And they're split into categories too. We've got usually sort of hero section, reusable, synchronized, niche as our kind of standard ones. And they have sort of tags and a search input as well. So editors are able to add their own blocks and manage that sort of tagging system as well. Or we can do that as developers. And lastly, when we're editing pages created from this modular content, the default UI would just kind of show you the preview of the outer block as well. So you can get that really easy editor experience. So in order to improve the block UI, there's two things that we do. The first is we ensure all of our outer and our inner blocks have a really good preview. So you can kind of see what's going on here. But then the second is, rather than it traditionally with the Sanity array, you just get that top level and you can click into it to see more. But what we do is use a custom component to kind of decorate that outer block array component to display the inner blocks on top of it as well. This provides a complete overview of the page content without any of the other controls getting in the way. Editors can see all of their content. They can rearrange the inner blocks within here, or they can rearrange their outer blocks. They can delete inner blocks. They don't have to go into the outer block first to do any of that. So it makes it a lot easier to manage with this kind of UI on top of it. So we've looked at increasing our editor flexibility and autonomy through this outer and inner block approach. We've looked at improving content turnaround time through reusable blocks, and we've seen how to make them much easier through this kind of visual blocker picker. And yet there's still more that we can do to improve this editorial experience. So when we're editing content, we started to see a number of chore tasks come up. So things that needed to be done to allow the editor to do their real work, things that just kind of get in the way and take time. So reducing or eliminating these kind of chores, that really help for a more sort of pleasing experience, less effort, less time used. So one chore we saw when using this was trying to keep the content of some blocks in sync across different pages. So you could imagine sort of a signpost at the end of certain pages which have a specific call to action on the page content. In the past, we might create like a signpost document for this, and add a signpost sort of field on the page and let the user kind of pick the appropriate signpost. But this is then scoped to just signposts. What if there were other content that editors wanted to keep in sync, like other pieces? So instead, we look to create what I said earlier was synchronized blocks. So these are blocks they can created with the same tools as modular blocks, but they'll appear in this kind of synchronized section in the block picker. And synchronized blocks can then just be included in the page like your reusable blocks or like anything else, but they'll appear slightly differently. They'll appear here with their image and their title and all of that, but rather than any controls, it will just be a note that says, this is a synchronized block. It mentions what, desynchronizing it will keep it in here, and there'll be buttons, one to go straight to where to edit it, and one to just desynchronize it entirely. And if they do that, it will just drop the outer and inner blocks in the page as if they had just added it from a reusable block. So it allows them to make their edits to all versions of a synchronized block from a single place, which is part of what we love about Sanity is distributed content and managing it really well. But being able to desync that block then keeps that flexibility as well. And then another chore that we recently started looking to tackle was changing the outer block, but keeping the inner blocks the same. So this currently requires kind of deleting the block, adding a new one, recreating the inner blocks inside of it. So it's a little bit of a time sink. And we haven't built a solution for this yet, but we've decided to create what we call kind of transforms on blocks that allow them to be changed into other types of blocks. So here we have a hero and a section. It has a transform function defined that shows that it can be turned, this hero block can be turned into a section, and then a map to show what should be happening to the individual fields on the hero and the section. The modular content just gets mapped, and then its background video and image get turned into the appropriate fields in the section block. So that approach allows us to really cut down on time spent manipulating these outer blocks and just make that a little bit faster. So we've talked about, I think, what is a really good standard for page editing with this approach, but I want to dive into some of the code that kind of powers it, so we can kind of get a bit behind the scenes and talk more about that. I don't have time to go into everything, but I'll focus on the outer and the inner block aspect for now. So if I bring this up. So we take a bit of a monorepo approach to our code bases to kind of help separate concerns. We've got our apps and packages areas. For our modular content, we have a package that kind of manages it all. So our block code is all co-located. Everything that a single block needs is all found in a single directory. So I'll show you how a developer adds a block. The first thing they need to do is create a new directory within here. So if we're adding an outer block, for example, they'll just come into the outer block, create a directory, and they just need to add these 4 to 5 files, and then everything else is taken care of. The block will appear in the block picker, it will appear on the front end, it will render all of its data correctly. That's all done by the lib. So in order to create a block, they need their block schema. They need a block config, which basically just has the name in. This is anything that's shared between Sanity and the web app. They need their block component, so the thing that's actually going to get rendered on the front end when this block is included, and they need a web file. So this is everything that the web app it needs to import. So it's all in sort of one file for the web app to do. And then lastly, an image if they want one to appear in the picker. So under the hood, we're doing a few things to kind of load this block. So the very first thing is that on the Sanity side of things, we've registered 2 object fields. So these are going to go into Sanity's schema types. We've got one for outer content and one for inner content. So then these can be used in any document really easily. These have everything they need to be a complete field. So it has all the components for the block picker and for the input for that. And it also loads all of the blocks in as array items that can be picked. So we use Vite to load all of these individually. So if I pop open this, you'll see that I'm just globbing all of our blocks, all of our outer and inner blocks, using Vite, mapping them out, and then just passing them through to this blocks object schema. And that just gets used to render out our blocks from our modular blocks function. And then we just define our array members. So that's really quick and easy for that. We also have helper methods that allow us to kind of define other modular content fields. So specifically this, we can use get modular blocks anywhere we'd like. If we want to limit the blocks that are available to a specific outer block or to a specific page or anything like that, we can really cut it down by just using this function and just passing in a list of blocks that we want to include or a list of blocks that we want to exclude. And lastly, each of our blocks has a schema that has this helper. So this define outer block helper, sets up the components that are needed to manage how it looks, as well as some field sets to give us data under certain places so that all of our blocks feel very similar. That might be, for example, a block anchor, like an ID on a section or on our outer blocks. So that's all managed for us automatically as well. The web side of things, there's two kind of main aspects to this. There's a grok query that, again, kind of pulls in all the individual grok queries for all of our blocks and then puts them onto a single grok query that can be included in our kind of page renderer. And then there's also a modular content renderer component. So this modular content renderer, you can stick this in any page template or any file, and then just give it the data from your page query, from that block query. And then it will just render through all of the different components. It will set a class on there. It will manage automatically the kind of spacing based on your kind of CSS spacing rules between your blocks, and just make it really easy to use modular content wherever you need to. In terms of the block spacing, that's one of the two main challenges we have. The other being using the kind of visual editor. So I can talk quickly on both of those. In terms of block spacing, we use rules between the blocks. So you could imagine if you add two sections and they might need slightly different spacing between them compared to a hero in a section, or compared to a section and a signpost or whatever like that. And then similarly with inner blocks, you might have different spacing there as well. So text that comes straight after a title might need different spacing between it than text after text, then text after a ticker, etc. So working closely with design, we have a bit of a design system for how those things can work, both in plain text here, but then also built out using the bottomized OWL selector and then combinations of kind of is. So we basically look at each of our blocks and go, by default, there's a certain spacing between them, but then here's all of our individual rules that will work between those blocks. And when you come to add a new block, you can, most of the time, the default spacing works well, but if you need it to be slightly different after a header or a hero or something, you can just come in and add a quick rule and change that spacing that you want. The very last thing we did, I mentioned with visual editing. So as we're pushing content sort of through from our page query into our modular content renderer, which comes into our section block, which might come into another modular content renderer, and then into our inner blocks, you can imagine we kind of lose track of the path of the data in order to get things like the data sanity encode attribute for visual editing. So if I just show what I mean real quickly, say this is our page query. So we've got our modular content under here and our inner content under here, and this is one of our inner blocks. If you're in your inner block and you have an image and we want to make that clickable like this, so we have a nice, I just had to refresh it. So you have the little blue outline from Sanity, and we can kind of click on our image to come straight to the field, right? So this is what I'm talking about. But to get this, we have to add a sanity attribute to this image so it knows what field it's related to. So we can kind of lose that through the data, but we've created these two, this component and this provider that kind of manage that for us. So the way that kind of works is you can wrap this around as you're passing data through. You can wrap this around your components and just say which field you're using. So this is the content field. So and the provider will start to keep track of that. So we're into our content field here. And then if we go into the next component, which is modular content renderer, it's been given this data in this red box. We can then wrap another one around this and say that we're now in key 0 of our content. So we're now in this one. And when it loads that next component, the outer section, again, we say, right, well, we're passing content through, so we need content. And it goes all the way down to essentially the final component, which has received this image. And it doesn't need to know where it's come from. It doesn't need to know where it is in this data. It can just call the encode data attribute function that Sanity has given us in the original query. And it spits out the correct data based on how it knows where it is in that array. So you can still use this with kind of visual previews, with this live edit mode and all of that stuff. It all still works. And that's essentially how we do outer and inner modular content. There's a lot more I can cover here. I know I've kind of rushed through some of this towards the end, but I'll be releasing kind of demos and more talks on this. And if you've got any questions, you can get me on Twitter or LinkedIn or in the Sanity Slack. I hope you've enjoyed this talk. I'd love to hear from anyone that gives this approach a try. I think it's absolutely fantastic the way it works with its inner content. And it's definitely felt really flexible, really powerful, and just gives back a lot of autonomy to editors that I think they sorely miss. But yeah, thank you so much.
Awesome, Jamie. Thank you so much. Okay, so again, all the emojis are going crazy right now. We have a bunch of questions for you. There's a bunch that are lined up, but it's really cool to, like, speaking of like the reusable content and like the reusable blocks, like you write it once and then you give that like full autonomy to the editor to just like create and build when they need, and they don't need to bug the engineers about it. Or so it's like a lot of like front loaded work for the engineer, but then it frees up a lot to continue to like build cool things. So yeah, it's really cool to see all this in action. So yeah, let's just get through these questions. There is, and I think I can add these to the stage. Yeah, I think people can see that. No, I don't know. I'll just ignore that because I don't know 100% about this platform. But so one of the questions is, this is kind of just like maybe a side note, but what is your favorite? Oh, it popped away from me. What is your favorite React framework these days?
React framework.
Yeah.
I guess, I mean, so at Hex, we've been using Vue for the past sort of 6-7 years with Next.js. And then we have been working with Vue and Nuxt.js, and then React and Next.js now. So in terms of a React framework, it'd be Next. But I mean, it doesn't mean the other frameworks are absolutely fantastic as well, and that approach. But yeah, I think for us, we have this mix between Vue and React because purely based on sort of what our clients are doing, we kind of get like dropped into client projects, and where they've been working already is what we need to be specialized in.
Got it.
So we have those two approaches, and it's really interesting to kind of learn or be in both communities and learn from one another, because they're always innovating, they're always changing, and there's some fantastic stuff on both sides that's really excellent to see and bring across to the other. Yeah,
cool. And then we have another question. So I'm gonna show it on stage, and hopefully it works. So great presentation. Are there any tips or advice for those planning and writing the copy to be used in this modular way? Was it challenging to shift the mindset of copywriters crafting pages to crafting blocks?
Yeah, I think getting your mind around sort of what an outer block is and what it's for and how it works was a hurdle, was the first sort of challenge. But being able to essentially bypass that with reusable blocks and take it back to what you have with page sections really helped to alleviate that up front. And then it's like, here's a bunch of sections that work really well. And then you can move the content inside of that and just completely ignore outer blocks for now. But when you're ready to kind of start playing around with them and see what you can get, then that flexibility is still there. That power is still there. And then when they really go on and build full landing page templates, that's really exciting too. And I love just kind of coming back after 4 or 5 months and seeing how that catalog has grown and how people have used it, and where it's worked and where it hasn't worked, so we can improve on that as well. So it's been really, really good. Definitely a little bit of a hurdle, but there's tools there to make that easier for sure.
Yeah, there's always like a learning, growing pain that like comes with it, but once it clicks, then it helps a lot.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so another one. So this is Ariella has 2 questions. So the first one is, out of curiosity, from a semantic perspective, are you treating section blocks as HTML section tags?
Yeah, I think the outer blocks work really well in that regard as well, is that they can be the kind of guardians of their own semantics, where they are section blocks, and we know that they're typically going to need a H2 within there, and they can then define what the semantics of the other tags within them from the inner blocks are going to be, because they know how they're structuring that content. So we sometimes have a little bit of code in some of our blocks that will look ahead through the inner blocks and figure out what the content is, and then choose the right semantics for that. So if you add text or a title to one block, it might be H1, for example, because it's a hero. But if you add it to another block, it might be a H2, or if you add it somewhere nested, it might become a H3. So you have a little bit more control over the semantics without having to have your editors worried about the semantics as well, which I think is, again, a really nice abstraction on top of that. And just takes it out of their workflow and just handles it automatically.
For sure. That kind of like leads into the other question. Also, have you gotten any special logic around H1 tags, such as H1 can only exist in the hero section? So
yeah, exactly. So that's handled automatically, which makes it really nice.
Yeah, that's nice. Cool. Well, that answers my second question. Cool. So thank you, Jamie. Wait. Okay. 2 questions. From Allie, is the between block spacing custom to a project? If so, does it make it harder for developers and other team members to work across projects?
It is custom, yeah. I wouldn't say it's harder to work across the projects though. It's the original rules are kind of laid out, and they're all kind of explained, and they're in they're built through the design as well. So working closely with design, I think, is paramount to a lot of what we do these days. But to make this work as well, the design needs to kind of be on board with that spacing and how that's going to work. But we can also add in areas that can be kind of custom and not follow those guidelines if we need to, again, using just block controls if that's necessary. But we try and avoid that as much as possible. But yeah, I wouldn't say it's harder, because it's just sort of, it exists in a file and it just kind of works, and you can add more blocks. And just, if there's rules for them, they'll go in that file, which I think is not too difficult. And we haven't tried anything else. I think that's the only thing we've tried for this kind of block spacing approach. But I'm more than happy to take on ideas and suggestions. I'm always looking to improve what we do, so it'll be good to hear any.
Cool. Well, thank you so much, Jamie, for your awesome talk and for answering all these questions. I will put Jamie's talk on our YouTube and with any links that are needed. But yeah, thanks so much, Jamie, and we really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Cheers, Cap. Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, so we are 2 down, 1 more to go. We have Rich, who is our SEO expert at Sanity. Super excited for this talk. Jamie and Josh, thank you so much for your awesome presentations. Keep an eye out. If you speak at one of our meetups, you get swag. So keep an eye out in your DMs from me. I will be sending you a link to some cool Sanity swag. If you'd like to speak at a Sanity meetup in the future, reach out to me. I am always looking for speakers. We are about to announce our next one. So once we do that, I'm looking for speakers for it. So reach out, but you will be able to see what is happening in 6 weeks. So let's bring Rich on stage. He is right here. Rich.
Hey.
Hi, Rich. How's it going?
Yeah, good.
So I'm going to kind of feed off of one of the questions that Jamie got. What was your favorite React framework? So for everyone, what is your favorite front end to pair with Sanity? And Rich, you have to answer that.
Yeah, probably Next.
Okay.
That's mainly down to kind of, that was the first framework that I've kind of worked with. I've not kind of experimented too widely personally, because I'm not a proper developer. But yeah, mainly Next.
Nice. Yeah, I am all about the Next and Sanity combo. I do a lot of like tutorials with that combo, so it just feels right to me.
Yeah.
A lot of Next, only Next. Does anyone do anything but Next and Sanity? It's the best one. No, they're all good. Okay, so and then one question from Quincy: how soon will we see it on YouTube? I would expect maybe the next day or so. I will get it up on YouTube, and that will be all 3 talks, all individual like YouTube links. So keep an eye in the Sanity Slack community. That's at, let me put the link in, slack.sanity.io. So if you join that, you will be able to see all of our announcements and the links and all that kind of good stuff. 2 for Astro Insanity.
I
That's
have
good.
been wanting to play around with Astro actually, but I've not got around to it yet.
Yeah, me too. Cool. Well, let's share your screen.
Yep.
And after that, I will leave you to it. Very excited for this talk. I kind of did like an intro for you, but yeah, I will let you introduce yourself, and the stage is yours. Thanks, Rich.
Great. I'm going to talk to you about how AI can be used to support creating helpful content programmatically. It's a bit of a mouthful, but hopefully it will make sense as we go through. So firstly, a bit about me. So I'm Principal Data Science, Performance Marketing and SEO here at Santi. I've been here around 2 years, and I sit within the demand generation team. I got into SEO around 16 years ago, so I feel like a bit of a veteran now. And when I got into SEO, things like the Google dance was still spoken of. And if anyone doesn't know what the Google dance is, I'll let you look that up in your own time. But also just to point out the obvious, that's not me dancing in the GIF. That's someone called Peter the Greeter, who works at Google. And I'll let you look up Peter the Greeter in your own time as well. But I think he's probably a bit of a symbol that Google has quite a lot of money to burn. But yeah, I really wanted to just start off with a statement, which is AI shouldn't replace human activity, but it should accelerate it. And I want to dig into a little bit why AI shouldn't just create content with human in the loop. And the first reason why is that it still has some way to go. And I think people can probably relate to me a little bit when I sort of talk about how it's quite easy to persuade AI to kind of go down the wrong path. And you might even do it kind of unintentionally. So I don't know about others, but I have had multiple different occasions where I've been working with ChatGPT, and it's given me some code to implement. I've gone away and implemented it. It's not worked. I've gone back to ChatGPT and told it that it's wrong. It's apologized and thought up a new way of doing it. And then I've later found out that it was actually right all along. And I think that's just a clear example that, you know, it can quite easily change its mind and learn the wrong thing. And therefore that kind of leads it down the wrong path to kind of inaccurate content potentially. And I also found that was true when I created a RAG system, sort of an automated RAG system. For those that don't know, RAG stands for Retrieval Augmented Generation. And essentially means that you plug the AI into a database, and then that augments its knowledge, and it uses that to inform its response. And in this case, this system used Google. So basically how it worked was I would give GPT 3.5 a topic. It would then think up questions to research. I plugged it into Google with the custom search API, which I'll talk a little bit more about in a minute. But it would research, it would search for 5 questions, get 5 results for each question, and then use that to give a brief to GPT-4, which would then create the article and give it back to me. And I actually found in some cases, this was returning worse results than if I just left GPT-4 to it. And the reason was that it was trying to fit the brief kind of too strictly. And if it was particularly kind of a complex or nuanced topic, Google's results weren't necessarily the best in terms of kind of providing that brief. So the brief was actually sometimes kind of a bit off, and therefore the article wasn't great. And again, I think it's an example where it's too eager to please and it's too eager to learn, and you can kind of override its kind of correct knowledge by giving it that's something that's kind of a bit off. So just a little bit more information about the custom search API for interest, though, if people are interested in that, and kind of setting up a similar process. So basically, that's a service that Google provides where you actually can access their indexed content and get a JSON response. And you get 100 free searches per day. And the reason why I'm kind of showing you this is because I know a lot of people scrape the Google search results, and it's quite easy to get blocked, and it's kind of against their terms of service. So yeah, I definitely recommend checking this out if you kind of fancy sort of using a search engine alongside AI. So that was the first reason, that kind of AI probably isn't quite ready to take over creating your content yet. And then the second reason is that Google is actively working against unhelpful content. And if you use AI kind of incorrectly or kind of lazily, it's very easy to create unhelpful content. So they actually launched like a helpful content system in 2022, where they try and look for signals for content that's unhelpful. And if they do find kind of unhelpful content, that can be a site-wide signal. So if you have a lot of unhelpful content on your website, because potentially you've generated it, or even if it's created by humans, that can then lead to the rest of your website kind of being relegated in the search results to some extent. So it's something definitely to be mindful of if you're kind of creating content at scale and relying too heavily on AI to do that. They actually then worked on that over a year and a half, and then launched a really big update in March 2024. And I'm sure some people will be aware of this. And it's probably the biggest update for, I don't know, a number of years. And sites saw a large drop during March as a result. And this graph shows an example. And it wasn't just AI generated content that was impacted. It was human kind of created content as well, but that's kind of beside the point. This update was all focused around that unhelpful content kind of signal. And if you create content at scale with AI and you're not kind of careful enough, one of these kinds of updates might affect you in the future. And then related to that, and I'm sure some people have seen this in the search results because it's very noticeable. Reddit has seen a huge increase in visibility. It's quite difficult to find a search now where Reddit isn't ranking on the first page. So this screenshot's actually from a visibility tracker tool called Systrix, and you can see there's been a huge increase over the last year, and that's because Google's looking to reward real life experience. It's looking to, it feels real life experience adds value to content. And that's quite difficult to add, when you're just generating content with AI, because obviously that's using other people's experiences to create the content. So again, it's just something to be mindful of. You want to work with AI and add this extra value with your own experience rather than just letting AI take over your content. So what's the answer? So as I mentioned, we should collaborate with AI to inspire and speed up our activities. And from the highest level, that's essentially kind of starting with something rather than nothing. So it's much more difficult to create content kind of starting with a blank slate, but AI can provide you with something to kind of work on it as a starting point, a draft. And it's so much easier to kind of get going. And I think that's kind of the way that we need to think about it. We've actually got two tools in the Santi ecosystem, which will be of interest from this respect. So AI Assist, which I think Josh kind of touched on a little briefly in his presentation. So you can run instructions within documents with that, helping with tasks like metadata, translations, and variants. And that's available on the growth plan. And then the other one is Sanity Create, which uses, which we launched about 2-3 months ago. And it's like an AI-powered writing assistant. And it's free early access, so I definitely recommend going and signing up and having a look at it. And with that, you can use notes. So you can give like the AI assistant notes to kind of work from. And you can collaborate with it to create a document. And you can collaborate with other humans as well. And one way that I've used it is actually defining SEO tests within that. So actually kind of putting some tests like looking at readability, for example, that's something that it's able to look at. So again, I definitely recommend going and having a look at Sanity Create. So that's kind of how, that's some tools that can help individual documents. But what about accelerating starter documents at scale? And by that, I mean, being able to provide AI with a topic list, it will then create content for each topic, and the end result will be unique, relevant, helpful documents for each topic. And populating blocks in this way is the key to higher quality results in terms of those unique relevant documents. So that kind of goes back to Jamie's presentation. So I've actually set up this whole process in an automated fashion where I give the system a topic list. And then for each topic, it will populate the hero block, collection block, breakout block, whatever kind of blocks you've defined with block specific prompts. And then at the end, you'll have these blocks that you can then combine into a JSON document. I actually do this outside of the studio at the moment. So I'd love to build this into the studio, but I just use Python and the HTTP API at the minute. So I think it's a really good example of how Sanity can be used to kind of democratize development and content creation. But yeah, I use the asset endpoint, for example, to upload images. I use the invitation endpoint to create documents. So I run the process automated outside the studio, and then it pushes the end result into the studio. And then I'm not going to spend too much time on this because I think Jamie's really covered it. But a page builder can give extra layout flexibility. So obviously the standard approach is kind of having a document type with a fixed structure or predefined fields. And page builder, and it sounds like Jamie's approach can give even more flexibility. So, it allows you to have a lot more control over the editor, and therefore kind of the AI more control over what goes where. And that can also help with your approach to optimization. So there's kind of an extra part to the process that you can put on the beginning, which is using kind of data to find out which layout's performing best, and then feed that into the automated process for then creating the document. So the best layout gets fed into the system. And then for each block in that layout, you get the block specific prompts, resulting in the blocks to be combined into the JSON document. So I'm just going to talk a little bit now about how AI can help populate the blocks. So starting at kind of the obvious, which is kind of starter copy. So, if you've got a hero block, that might consist of a title and description. I think there's some specific sort of tips here that can help improve that output, because although you want to review it before it's published, you still want the output to be as high quality as possible. So you're saving as much time for that editor as possible. So examples of kind of improving that quality involve giving it examples. So that's kind of called few shot learning, particularly of the word length that you desire. So I tend to find that LLMs find it really difficult to work to a word length. But if you give it examples of that word length that you want, it's much more likely to get on the mark. And then remind it not to pay attention to the topic and examples because it's too eager to learn. So you do have to remind it, because one time out of 100, it might actually just write the description according to the example that you've given it. Incrementally build where necessary. So give it all of the document that you've created before that point to make sure that the output is relevant to the overall context. So for example, for this hero block, giving it the title in order to then create the description that's relevant. Tell it to exclude certain words. So I'm sure we've all read copy with certain words that humans kind of rarely use, like furthermore, delve, landscape. Have a dictionary of words and tell it to avoid using them. And then finally, just maybe generate 3 and get it to choose the best one. So again, that's kind of a way of ensuring the best quality output. And you can also get it to output a format so you can adapt it to portable text blocks. So if you've got portable text block in your builder, get it to output Markdown or HTML, change it to portable text by looking for marks, insert an image or a video, and then upload that. You could include RAG as before, so actually get it to do some research. But I tend to find that the best way of improving this in the end was actually to narrow the scope of the research question. So rather than getting it to think up the questions itself, which is where it starts to go off kind of track, kind of narrow that down so that it's only able to look for certain questions of certain formats. You can also make decisions between content for a block. So it's not all about creation. So for example, we've got a case study block. So I'll have a bank of 10 case studies. And then for the page, I'll ask for that particular page, I'll ask, or topic, I'll ask the AI which case study is most relevant for the page. And just some tips for this. So reduce the temperature. So basically there's a setting in terms of kind of an LLM that allows it to be more or less creative. And obviously you don't want it to be very creative here. You want it to be quite narrow in terms of just choosing 1 of 5 case studies. So reduce the temperature when you're kind of asking it to complete this task. And then also give information about the organizations in the case studies as well. So don't just get it to rely on its own kind of knowledge of the organizations. The organization name might be a bit ambiguous, so kind of give it background to each organization so you can get the best choice. And then another example is actually making decisions between images. So you can upload various different images and get it to choose the best one for the topic. And this is possible with both GPT Vision and now GPT-4o. So this link points to kind of how you can do it. And basically you can upload an array of images with a prompt. So obviously this kind of lends itself perfectly to uploading an array of images, and the prompt being, which of these is most relevant for a page covering a topic of X. And then it can also help create diagrams as well. So this is something that we do as part of that process. So for a topic, it might be kind of what JSON could represent this topic and how it's related to others. And then it will output the JSON model. You can then create a visualization using your favorite visualization library, open it with an automated browser, and then take a screenshot. And again, similar tips apply here. So give it examples of other JSON sort of models that are similar. Incrementally build, so give it the page so it's perceiving the topic as you're kind of perceiving it when you're writing about it. Reduce the temperature so that the JSON is valid, more likely to be valid. It's less likely to go off piste. And also generate 3 and get it to choose the best one again. So that was all about kind of creating content or kind of making decisions in order to help create content. But AI can also help assess rather than create helpful content as well. So it can actually help decide whether content is going to be helpful or not. And one example of how we do this, and again, this is outside of Santillana, use the HTTP API for it, and it's running in Python. But I will extract tickets data from our studio, our community studio, every day. I'll put a summary on it. I'll add tags to it. And then I'll also get the AI to think about how helpful is this to read. And if it passes this test, then it will be published to the website for other people to find within our answers section. So it's just an example of kind of how you can automate deciding whether content might be helpful or not at scale. And they also use a process to help determine similar content to redirect. So obviously we want to avoid kind of confusing scenarios where there's multiple different overlapping tickets available in the answer section of the site. So I'll get kind of answers that have few clicks and impressions. I'll generate a 5-word summary with BERT, which is kind of a free large language model. I'll do the same for the answer page inventory as a whole. I use a fuzzy matching algorithm to find ones that are kind of closely matched. And then I'll give the full pages to AI to decide which ones are actually similar and therefore need to be redirected for the low performers. And then the 301 redirects are uploaded as redirect documents to our redirect manager. And then finally, you can also get AI to rate content according to what Google wants. So I'm sure some of you are aware, but Google for a number of years has had an army of search raters around the world who rate content on a regular basis to sort of test their algorithm. And they give them a document as guidance for this rating. Unfortunately, it's 170 pages long. So I've given the link here in case you want to read it. But I'm guessing it might be a bit too much for some of you. But it can be really useful for then sort of trying to boil down to some kind of prompts that you can give AI to help test your content and how helpful it is. And quite a few GPTs have actually been created based on this. So this is one from someone called Leader. And And yeah, it can be quite useful. Some of the device is sometimes a bit generic, as you can see on the right there. But yeah, it's worthwhile checking out if you want. And then I've actually linked here to something that I use, which is kind of more of a truncated version. So if you want to set up something programmatically to kind of assess your content, this is like some self-assessment questions that Google give you that you need to ask yourself about your content. And there's about 30 covering kind of content quality and expertise. And I use this, which is kind of basically a truncated version of that 170-page document. So just to summarize kind of what we've been through. So AI shouldn't replace humans, but can help accelerate activity. AI isn't ready to take over content fully, and it may affect your organic search visibility. Sunti Create and AI Assist can help speed up individual documents through collaboration with AI. AI can also be used to create starter documents at scale using a block approach. So it can help populate copy, decide between elements, and create diagrams. Page builder approach can be used for additional layout flexibility. And AI can also help assess quality and similarity of content to help ensure that it is helpful. So that was me, and hope you found it useful.
Awesome, Rich. Thanks so much. I loved the call out to ChatGPT at the beginning where you're like, no, you're wrong. And it's like, yeah, you're right. I am wrong.
I think that's
I do that all the time.
Me,
like,
that happens to be a bit too regularly, to be honest.
Yeah, but I didn't know that like Google was so adamant on finding like helpful content, unhelpful, and like making sure it's correct.
Yeah, it's something they've had to kind of focus on more. I think that system in 2022, I think, was developed kind of in anticipation for AI and AI generated content, because it was around the time that GPT-3 was around. But I don't think they realized quite quickly how things would escalate.
Yeah, no, that's cool. So we do have a couple of questions, and I will bring them on the stage. So some of these come from like the beginning of your talk, but we'll just go through them. So this is from Chris. Do you have any internal metrics about the content lake to measure the amount of unhelpful content that is being put out there?
No, that's an interesting idea. Yeah. So I do assess content, and then I will potentially no index it if it's deemed to be kind of unhelpful. I'd rather kind of get it sorted there and then, if you see what I mean, rather than sort of measuring how much is live. And but yeah, it's an interesting idea, kind of having some kind of metric to sort of keep track in terms of kind of risk, maybe. But yeah, no, I will deal with it there and then. So as soon as content's sort of found to be potentially unhelpful, it will be either unpublished or no indexed.
That's good to know. And then here's one from Rahendra. What's your honest opinion about sanity certifications? Have you tried that?
I haven't yet, but yes, it's definitely on my list. So I know quite a few people in Santi have started. So when I find a bit of time, I'm actually doing a data science degree in my spare time. So I need to kind of make some room in that. Yeah, when I get a bit of time, I definitely want to try out a Santi certification.
Right on. Today I learned that you're doing that. Cool. Well, okay. One more question just came in. Have you tried ChatGPT versus Gemini versus Claude? Any other LLMs?
So I have tried Claude, and I think Claude is actually pretty good, particularly the most recent model. I found that GPT's, I don't know, it's kind of hit and miss with the new model. So I found that 4.0 like performs better for images compared to GPT Vision did, but in terms of kind of the rest of modes, it's actually a bit worse than GPT-4 in some cases. It's just faster. So I think there's trade-offs for all the different models. And I found that Claude's better for kind of creative writing and not including words like furthermore and delve and landscape and all that kind of thing. But in terms of its kind of logic and rational, that side of things, I think GPT-4 is probably still a bit better.
Cool. Yeah, I really enjoy Claude. But yeah, each one kind of has like its specialty, I guess.
Yes.
But,
yeah, kind of its upside, yeah.
Cool. Well, that is all the questions. And great talk, great insight on all these AI things. Do you use AI a lot in your personal life?
Yeah. Well, I'm doing a bit of a side project at the moment in React, and I'm not, kind of a JavaScript developer really. I kind of understand the basics, but it's massively helping me in that. I guess that is kind of my personal life, but I don't use it like other people do to kind of create spreadsheets and plan events and things like that. That's not really kind of me, but I probably would if I did that kind of thing.
Yeah. Cool. Well, thank you so much, Rich. And thank you to everyone for your questions and for hanging out. And yeah, I will see you around, Rich. All the thumbs up emojis are coming in. And yeah, you did great. And we really appreciate it. Thanks so much.
Great. Thanks, all.
All right, so the virtual meetup of July is coming to an end. Thank you everyone for hanging out and for asking questions or throwing around emojis or chatting in the chat. We really appreciate it. So a couple things, all of this is recorded and each talk will have its own YouTube video on our Sanity YouTube. If you are not a part of the Sanity Slack, let me put that link. It is slack.sanity.io. That is where I will put all of the links for these talks for YouTube. I'll put it in the announcements channel, and that way you'll be able to like gather all of them at once. And then, and the Slack community is also where you'll find out about our next one, but you can just find all of our events at sanity.io/events, and that is where every event that we have is listed. So we actually have another event happening on, I want to say July 18th, and it is a Tecovas event. So what we did is we sent our CTO and co-founder to Tecovas, which uses Sanity, and just kind of like did like a customer story. And it's really cool to like see how this shoe boot brand is using Sanity across like different departments. So that is happening, and you can find that in the sanity.io/events. And then finally, the last link I want to send all of you is we are always hiring. So if you are looking, or if you know anyone that is looking, definitely check out this list. And if you find one that might fit you, definitely apply. So yeah, we're super excited for the next one, which is happening in August. Keep an eye out in the Slack community. Thank you so much again, everyone. Thank you to our speakers, Jamie, Josh, and Rich, for amazing content. And we will see you all around. Bye, everyone.